Most traders start their careers the same way I did, by losing money. It's a rite of passage, I guess, but it's a painful one. Fast forward to today, and on a really busy day, I might be trading $250 million. So how in the world do you get from point A to point B? Let me tell you, it's not about being the smartest guy in the room or finding some magic formula. It's about completely rewiring your brain to think in a way that feels totally unnatural. This is my story, and it's built on a really strange idea, that to win big, you have to become an expert at losing.
This right here, this is everything. Normal thinking is your default setting. It's that voice in your head that says, hey, that stock has dropped a ton, it must be cheap now. Or, quick, sell now and lock in that tiny profit before it disappears. It's what everyone else is doing. But guess what? The market is a machine that's beautifully designed to punish the crowd. So if you want exceptional results, you have to be willing to do what feels wrong, to be uncomfortable. You have to think differently, period. I learned this lesson in the most brutal way possible, in front of a whole lot of people, and it nearly ended my career before it even started.
So, my first real taste of the big leagues, I'm a fresh-faced analyst, and I think my job is just to be smart and agreeable. Wrong. What I actually got was a very public, very painful lesson in just how dangerous normal thinking can be.
Okay, so picture the scene. I'm just a kid, basically, fresh out of university, working for this huge brokerage, and my boss decides to take me to Royal Ascot. We're talking top hats, champagne, the absolute pinnacle of the British upper class, and he's parading me around his most important client saying, "This is my boy genius, ask him anything." I mean, the pressure was just immense. I thought, this is it. This is my chance to impress everyone.
So when this big shot client asks me if Marconi is cheap, I give him my honest, unfiltered analysis. Marconi is garbage, I said. And let me tell you, the entire conversation just stopped. You could hear a pin drop, the smiles vanished, and I could feel my boss's eyes burning a hole in the side of my head. What I didn't know at the time was that every single one of those clients owned that stock. They were all caught in that classic trap of normal thinking. It's fallen so far it has to go back up. It's a bargain. They were desperate for me to tell them they were right, and instead I told them their investment was trash.
And you know what's crazy? The story gets worse. Months go by, and the stock collapses all the way down to 32p, and people were still buying it. I ended up going on CNBC, and I said the same thing I said at the party. This stock is going to zero. And that's exactly what happened. The company went completely bust. So my analysis was perfect, 100% correct. And for being right, I got fired. That was the most valuable lesson of my life. It taught me that in this business, being right is useless if you're not managing the psychology of the people around you. But more importantly, it was undeniable proof that smart, wealthy people could lose everything by clinging to normal thoughts.
So let's just be crystal clear about this. My unconventional thinking was correct. The client's normal thinking, that simple, intuitive idea that what goes down must come up, cost them a fortune. This is proof that winning in the market has very little to do with being smarter or having more information. It is a psychological war, and the enemy isn't some other trader, it's the 3 pounds of gray matter between your own ears. Now check this out. This is one of the most fascinating and frankly tragic paradoxes in finance. This chart is based on data from tens of millions of actual trades by regular people, and what it shows is absolutely mind-blowing. The average trader is right more than half the time. They pick a winning trade about 62% of the time. Just let that sink in for a second. They win more often than they lose, and yet something like 90% of them end up blowing up their accounts. How on earth is that possible? How can you be right most of the time and still go broke? Well, it all comes down to 2 very powerful emotions. This is the fatal flaw. Our brains deploy hope and fear at the exact worst moments. So let's say you're in a trade and it starts losing money. The logical thing to do is cut it, right? Stop the bleeding. But your brain doesn't do that. Instead, it gives you a shot of hope. Oh, don't worry, it'll come back, you tell yourself. So you hold on, and that small manageable loss turns into a devastating one. Now let's flip it. You're in a trade and it's making money. Logic says you should let your winners run. But nope, your brain injects fear. Oh no, you got to take that profit right now before it vanishes. So you sell way too early, cutting off your biggest potential gains. You let your losers run wild and you choke your winners. It is the perfect strategy for going broke.
And if you're asking why we're so dumb, well, it's not our fault, it's biology. Neuroscientists have actually proven this. They've found that the pain we feel from a financial loss is 2.5 times more powerful than the pleasure we feel from an equivalent gain. Think about that. Losing $100 hurts more than twice as much as finding $100 feels good. It's called loss aversion. Your brain is hardwired to avoid pain above all else, which means its default programming, the very thing meant to protect you, is your absolute worst enemy in the market.
So here's the brutal truth of the game. To win, you have to declare war on your own human nature. It's not about learning a new chart pattern, it's about fighting your most basic instincts every single day. So, how do you do it? How do you actually force yourself to do the thing that feels painful but is right? It's not by reading motivational quotes, I can tell you that. For me, the thing that finally flipped the switch was a much darker, much more powerful emotion.
I stumbled upon a weird truth about human motivation. The biggest changes in life don't come from inspiration. They come from desperation. Real, lasting transformation doesn't come from chasing some beautiful future. It comes from an overwhelming, all-consuming need to escape a present that you can no longer tolerate. It comes from a place of pure, raw disgust.
The first time I saw this in action was with my first girlfriend. She was struggling with a very serious eating disorder, and for a long time, nothing worked. But her recovery didn't start with positive self-talk. It started when she reached a point of profound, visceral disgust with her own situation. Watching her, I realized I was seeing a force so powerful it could literally override one of our most fundamental biological drives, the instinct to eat. That was a huge light bulb moment for me. It showed me the almost terrifying power that this emotion has to create fundamental change.
And this, right here, is the emotional turning point that every struggling trader must reach. You have to look at your bad habits, holding losers out of hope, selling winners out of fear, and you have to feel genuine disgust for them. You have to get to a place where the idea of repeating that same mistake one more time makes you feel physically sick. Because that is the point where change stops being a choice and becomes an absolute necessity.
My own disgust came from my childhood. My parents divorced and my life was turned upside down. We went from a really nice house to a cramped one-bedroom apartment. I went to a school with a lot of wealthy kids, and I just felt this constant burning shame about my situation. I was disgusted, and that feeling, that became my rocket fuel. I started working every job imaginable, but here's the key. I wasn't motivated by a positive dream of being rich. I was motivated by a desperate, gut-wrenching need to run away from the feeling of being poor. That negative drive is the most powerful engine for change I've ever seen.
Okay, so that fire, that disgust, that's your ignition. It's what gets the engine started, but it's not enough to get you where you need to go. To actually succeed, you have to take all that raw energy and channel it into one thing and one thing only. You have to become obsessed with the process and learn to completely ignore the outcome.
I really learned this lesson in a swimming pool, of all places. I was on vacation with my son and we're both super competitive. So we set this absolutely insane goal for ourselves, to swim 50 meters underwater. That's a benchmark for Navy SEAL candidates. So our first few tries were just a complete joke. We'd just hold our breath, kick like mad, and stare at the other end of the pool. And we'd fail miserably, coming up for air not even halfway there.
The whole game changed when we just gave up on the goal. We literally stopped thinking about the 50-meter mark. Instead, we got obsessed with perfecting the process. We started with preparation, learning breathing techniques to get as much oxygen into our bodies as possible. Then, we focused on execution. Instead of thrashing around and burning all our oxygen, we practiced long, slow, efficient strokes. Every single movement was refined, and by focusing only on the process, the outcome just happened. By the end of the week, we were both coming within just a few strokes of the goal. It was incredible.
And this is a perfect metaphor for trading. If your goal is, I need to make $1,000 today, you've already lost before you even start. Let me say that again, because it's so important. Your main job as a trader is not to make money. Your only job is to execute your trading plan, your process, perfectly, with no emotion and no exceptions. If you can do that day in and day out, the money just becomes a byproduct. It's the natural result of a mastered process. So, you take this different way of thinking, you add this deep understanding of your own psychology, and you combine it with a relentless obsession with process, and you get to the core philosophy that defines my entire career. This is the idea that ties everything together. This is how you actually win the game.
Here it is. This is the big secret. Everybody thinks trading is about being a great winner. It's not. That's the easy part. The real skill is being a great loser. People ask me, what's your secret? What's your edge? My edge is ridiculously simple. I am the best loser you will ever find. I have absolutely mastered the art of taking a small loss quickly, without any emotion, and moving on to the next trade. That's it.
These are the 5 rules I live by.
And if you look closely, you'll see every single one of them is designed to be a weapon against my own flawed human brain. Take the first one. I assume I'm wrong until proven otherwise. That forces me to start small. Then, I never add to a losing position. That rule is designed to kill that destructive feeling of hope. But the most powerful one is, I add only when I am right. This forces me to be aggressive exactly when my fear is screaming at me to take my profit and run. The whole system is designed to do one thing: keep me small when I'm wrong and let me get big when I'm right.
At the end of the day, my knowledge of charts and indicators is fine. It's probably average. Honestly, I could teach you everything I know about technical analysis in a single weekend. That's the simple stuff. The hard part, the real work that separates the 90% who lose from the tiny few who win, is the constant, messy, uncomfortable battle that you fight inside your own head. It's not about knowing the market. It's about knowing yourself.
Look, none of what I've said is really a secret. We all know we're supposed to cut our losses and let our winners run. Having the information isn't the problem. The only question that matters is this: are you willing to fight your own mind to actually do it? Because at the end of the day, the market couldn't care less about what you think is going to happen. The only thing it rewards is discipline, and winning that war against yourself is the only trade that really matters.